All right. Seems like I'm live. Yeah, seems like I'm live. Sorry, guys, for the last minute thing, but I've been seeing what's going on today, and I would much rather do something live today instead of a video. So, this is happening off of the back of the Charlie situation, and then Dice, and then the ice shoot or the ice situation as well. Hey Nora. Thanks for joining, Nora. Um well, yeah, so I just heard about I I can't remember if this was yesterday or today. I do know that Trump is responding to things today, if I remember correctly. And what I wanted to really talk about today is things are really escalating, right? Things are really, really escalating. So you have two different things that are going on. One is here, because we're going to look at a couple of videos. So you have the governor of Oregon saying that they don't need help here. And then you also have Trump that is sending troops in anyways. And I think that by Trump, or I should say the Trump admin sending troops over there to really, I should say, quell the terrorism, because that's exactly what they are. I think that's a good thing. Um, but one thing to really mention about that too is that this is only going to continue happening. We're only going to keep seeing more and more of this. So, but before we get into all of the videos and everything, I just want to see if you guys can hear me. Is the audio fine? I'm just going to keep going if I don't see anything from you guys. So we're gonna go ahead and watch this, kind of see what the governor is saying, and then I want to switch over to what Trump is saying, um, and then we'll try to see if we can find something on X. So,
We're in.
oops, I was supposed to. Hang on, let me fix that real quick. There we go. All right, we're good.
The central city of Portland, Oregon, and it is a beautiful day, and we are very happy to be here speaking with you today. In my conversations directly with President Trump and Secretary Noem, I have been abundantly clear with them that Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection. There is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city. Military service members should be dedicated to real emergencies.
Real emergencies.
The members of the Oregon National Guard, their mission is to stand up and protect Oregonians, and they will do that every day, but they are not needed in the city. They are not needed here. And you can tell because you're here with me in Portland. You can see that this city is safe and calm, and it is a beautiful day to be here. For those of you who are here downtown or watching at home, you know that our city is not the place that people think it is from years ago. There is business thriving. People are coming downtown. They are enjoying this community. We have students who are ready to go see the Lion King tonight at the Keller Auditorium. People are going to the Timbers match. People are downtown shopping. Folks who are getting ready to go to work at the restaurants here that make the Rose City a culinary capital are getting ready to go to work. People are shopping. People are going to the farmers markets or at the
Thanks for joining, Nora. I appreciate you. Hope you have a good night.
Saturday market. Portland's doing just fine. And I made that very clear to the president this morning. Our city is a far cry from the war-ravaged community that he has posted about on social media. And I conveyed that directly to him. That we got this, we are good, we are doing fine.
Well, I want to stop that because I came across. Let's put this up here. I came across this as she was talking. And so I want to watch this video here.
At Amazon, skills training and apprenticeships can move hourly employees into higher paying roles, like robotics. And that's a win you
Of
can
course,
count
there's an ad.
You're on.
Come on!
Meantime, in Oregon tonight, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Facility in Portland has become the scene of demonstrations for more than 80 consecutive nights. Correspondent Dan Springer shows us this evening.
Night after night, this is the scene just outside the ICE facility in Portland. Hundreds of residents live in apartments just feet away. They routinely call police about the noise and crime.
I'm calling about the protesters. They've cornered 2 women out here. They need help. Please send the cops.
But the cops did not come. Residents on their own.
Turn that down! It's midnight! We the people need sleep!
This week, protesters brought what looked like a guillotine. Some confrontations end with residents getting assaulted. First a bullhorn, then a fist. No arrest was made despite the injuries. On this night in late June, federal...
No, you're fine, Noah. I appreciate you joining. I'm going to go ahead and type that as well.
Police used tear gas and flashbangs. Again, no Portland police in sight. It came out later in court that one officer told another, if it were not ICE, we could assist directly. Julie Parrish sued the city to force police to enforce local laws.
This is a full-on abdication of police duty in a 4-block radius that impacts some of the most vulnerable Oregonians that we have. Now they've said, meh, we're just going to let violent rioters do this for 80 straight nights, and we don't care.
Portland police responded, we take these concerns seriously. At the same time, we are committed to protecting individuals' rights to express themselves peacefully.
The Portland approach is pathetic. It's childish.
All right. Well, I want to make sure that that is the right date. Okay, yeah. So that was today. Does that look peaceful to you? Because that doesn't look peaceful to me. But the governor here would much rather have you believe that Portland is doing fine. Why do these people have the positions that they do? I know exactly why. More than likely that they're taking APAC money or some kind of PAC money. That's usually how it goes. I mean, most of these politicians are taking some kind of PAC money to get into office, and they always promise these things to help out whoever it is that they're trying to sweet talk into getting their positions, and then they turn around and they only work for the special interest that put them in office in the first place. So, obviously, Oregon is not doing fine. Portland specifically is not doing fine, and she would have you believe that everything is just fine. There's no riots. There's no violence. There's no terrorism going on. There's nothing. Everything is just fine. Don't believe what you see. Don't believe what you hear. I'm tired of this. I'm so tired of this. All right, let's see what Trump has to say.
Welcome in here to Live Now from Fox. We do have some breaking news for you. We're learning here that President Trump is going to be sending troops to Portland, Oregon. Here's what we're learning. He said today he's going to send those troops there to handle, quote, domestic terrorists as he expands his deployments to more American cities. He made the announcement on social media, and we're going to share that post here with you right now. Let's read it. It says, at the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I'm also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter. This just coming out on Truth Social moments ago. President Trump said the decision, as you just heard there, was necessary to protect U.S. immigration and customs enforcement facilities, which he described as under siege from attack. Now, since the assassination of Charlie Kirk, President Trump has escalated his efforts to confront what he calls the, quote, radical left, which he blames for the country's problems with political violence. Earlier in September, President Trump had described living in Portland as, quote, like living in hell, and said he was considering sending in federal troops, as he has recently threatened to do, to combat crime in other cities, including Chicago and Baltimore. He deployed the National Guard to Los Angeles over the summer and as part of his law enforcement takeover in the District of Columbia. In Tennessee, Memphis has been bracing for an influx of National Guard troops. And just yesterday, Republican Governor Bill Lee said they will be part of a surge of resources to fight crime in the city. So once again, we are learning more about this here, as this did just come into our newsroom. If there's any more developments, we're going to bring them to you here on Live Now from Fox.
Libby, the president has.
Yeah. So, oops.
Essentially called it a.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, we were seeing live footage that Portland is literally burning yet again. So, it seems as though every single week now, after the assassination, well, even before the assassination, right? There's some kind of fatal situation. There's some kind of something, right? And this is only going to continue to ramp up. That's the sad part about this, is that I don't see this slowing down. Well, we can all keep our heads in the clouds. We can all be in la la land and say that it'll eventually get better, right? Because you got to weather the storm, right, to find the green pastures where the weather is calm. But I've seen too much of history to know that, and I've said this in my previous videos, humanity always has a cycle of coming together, building something, tearing that something down, and destroying each other in the process. And then we separate and we come back together, right? So we see that all throughout our history. And I don't think people really understand exactly what is about to happen, right? We are on the cuffs of major conflict. That's the sad part about it, right? And it's people that it's people that we should be considering as our countrymen, right? People that we should help out as much as we can. But we've been convinced by the powers that be. Our minds have been warped to the point to where we don't know what reality is anymore, that we're all at each other's throats if we don't agree with one another 100% on every single thing. You know? Now, obviously, there are some things that you really should have that you really should not, agree with at all, right? And that's, of course, abortion and all that stuff. And then having children mutilate themselves because they believe that they're a different gender than what they were born with, instead of learning to love themselves for who they are, they are encouraged to hate themselves, and then they're put on all kinds of hormone therapy that alters their very chemistry, right? Really messes with their psyche, and then they get confused and they go and they do some really terrible shit, as we saw in Minneapolis, right? So, damn, man. I really do think our country has passed the point of no return. I mean, Pandora's box has been open for a while now. I don't understand why Antifa, BLM, all of those organizations weren't declared as terrorist organizations well before this very year. Why did it take them so many years when they were already very aggressive, very violent, even in 2015? But 2015, 2016, excuse me, you had the Proud Boys who were arrested right on the spot. And if I remember correctly, most of them weren't even violent. There were a couple of there were a couple of, there were a couple in there that were, but that it wasn't what they made them to be. And then of course they're going to try and crack down on militias and make militias out to be something that they aren't. Well, I mean, if it doesn't fit their narrative, of course. And then you also have big tech working with government to silence those who speak out against the narrative, right? You and the thing is when the narrative is when the narrative, or I should say when the only narrative is allowed, or how am I trying to word this? Words are hard today. When only one narrative is allowed to be, right? That's the only thing that people hear. And maybe narrative isn't really the best word to use. I would probably say talking, or talking points, maybe. When only one talking point is allowed, when only one way of thought is allowed, that's all people hear. And we knew for a long time that even before the Biden administration, people were being censored. We know that, right? Because even during Trump's first administration, he was being kicked off of X, and he was being banned in a lot of different places. Facebook had already admitted that they were, censoring per the government to silence not just Trump, but all of those who would speak right on behalf of conservatives or have conservative viewpoints. But the main narrative was one of leftist ideology, and so many people, low IQ wise, and I say that jokingly, but there is some truth to that as well, right? But you have so many people who believed in, and still do believe in, what they are being spoon-fed, right? And of course they're going to act out in these manners because they honestly really do believe what they're being told. And the saddest part about that is, and I know I've said this quite a few times, the saddest part about this is that people aren't really asking the real questions. People aren't talking about the real problems, right? The real issues. We've heard about the swamp, right? And that's when people were really starting to kind of wake up a little bit, right? They were either coming from the left, the center, and moving over to the right. And that's partly because of the quote unquote red pill, right? That's a term that's very well known now, and the thing about that is when when you're given the red pill, right, and you start to figure things out, you start to do more research, you begin to realize that, look, it's not just Republicans, it's not just Democrats, right? Most of them are in on it. Most of them are. And most of them are taking PAC money. A lot of them are taking APAC money. And they're just doing a lot of shady shit, And they're pushing people to fight against one another. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. They were really they started to do that because and this is what I was getting to. They started to do that because people were starting to wake up because of the red pill, right? Because of the red pill movement. And now that you have more people who are waking up, right, and not just to the quote unquote swamp, right? The oligarchs, as I like to call them, the elites of society. It's that people are beginning to realize that it doesn't matter who is voted in, whether they be Republican or Democrat, that things are still going to stay the same regardless, because all of them, or I mean, not all of them, there are some good out there, right? But most of them are, in it together, and when people began to realize that, and that's when 2015 came around, people who began to ask questions and begin to open their minds, right, and learn and start doing research and wake up, essentially. That's when they became the target of propaganda, right? Started being called basket of deplorables, all kinds of just disgusting shit, right? And that didn't stop. It got worse. They started they here's the thing, and this is also really sad too, is that they began to ramp up the propaganda because they realized that they could get away with it. And that's the truth. That is the absolute truth. They could get away with it. There were no repercussions, right, because of Section 230. There were no repercussions of the propaganda that would come from mainstream media, whether it's Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, whatever, right? There was no repercussions for them, actively inciting violence, because that's exactly what they were doing. They were actively inciting, and they're still doing it. They are still doing it, right? Because when you say that people should take up arms, right? How else do you interpret that? How else do you interpret that? Right? That people should be confronted wherever they go. How else do you interpret that? Constantly being called fascists, Nazis, racists, bigots. I mean, just everything under the sun except American. And so the water has been boiling, and I don't want to see any violence at all. I don't want to see any of that shit. Right? I've seen too much of war. I've seen too much of it. I know what it is, and I know what it can do. Right? I don't want to see fathers taken from their children. And I'm not just talking about Charlie here. Right? I don't want to see whether you vote red or blue, whether you believe right or left. I don't care. I don't want to see fathers taken from their children. I don't want to see mothers taken from their children. I don't want to see sisters taken from brothers. I don't want to see children taken from their parents. I don't want to see any of that stuff, you know. But the thing is that humanity is always doomed to repeat the same cycle. We're animals just like anything else, and well, we've become so tribalistic because we've been emboldened emboldened to be so tribalistic, you know, by the viewpoints that they have pushed us to, you know, believe so zealously in. And this is only going to continue to get worse. Portland is just, it's pretty much going to be a day in the park compared to what we're going to see in the next few years. Right. Because when Kirk was shot, that was the last effort for someone to, you know, meet someone in the middle who they may disagree with, right? To talk with them, to have civil discourse, to treat them like human. Well, the reason why, you know, because Steven Crowder actually started that with Change My Mind, right? But he stopped that, like many others did, because they were receiving all kinds of threats, death threats. They were literally getting death threats. They were being assaulted on the college campuses. I mean, if I remember, one of the last Change My Mind segments that he did, there was a trans who was literally throwing no, it wasn't coffee, no, but I do think that they were throwing all kinds of shit everywhere, right? And assaulting, you know, Steven, right? And so and that was back in, I definitely think it was before 2020 for sure. But now it's gotten so bad, right? And we're at the point to where the water is just boiling over. You know, and it really pains me to see things like this happen because, you know, I along with many others served this country, right? And I believed in what I was doing. And to come back after I get out, especially when I was removed from service for refusing the vaccination, right, and being forgotten about by the very people that we had voted into office, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It really is. It's heartbreaking. So, I mean, what else can you really say? You know, I mean, let's see if we can try and find something on X here. So, Lori Chavez, DeRaymer, former Oregon congressman and current U.S. Labor Secretary, expressed her support for Trump's announcement of deploy troops to Portland. Okay. Well, I mean, you know, it's just like I said. I might want to watch exactly what I do. Yeah, I might want to watch scrolling through X here, but does this look peaceful to you? Does this look peaceful to you? I don't know if this was from a while ago. I think this is from, let's see, when was this post? Okay, so this was 1 hour ago, right? Dude, that's a Russian flag. Why are they carrying a Russian flag? that's really weird to me. They're talking about fighting fascists, right? Because these are the people that are talking about fighting fascists, right? Right, anti-fascist, right? Why is it that they're carrying a fucking Russian flag? And then they're burning places, dude. They're burning monuments. They're burning places. Oh my dude. I really wish that I had started this channel a few years ago. I really wish I did. Because I do think and I appreciate all of you who have joined the family. I really appreciate all of you guys. In helping me to change the society here, right? Because I think we're making whatever effort that we are making, at least we're doing something, right? It counts for something. But I mean, I'm just going to be very real with you guys. We are definitely past the point of no return. We're definitely we are going to start seeing more violence. As much as I don't want to see it, that's exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see more violence. So, let's see if we can find something else here. I know JD Delay was live. Is he still alive? Okay, it looks like he's still alive.
And
what is he saying?
Thank you for being here. I love you, Shane. That means so much to me. You have no idea, brother. Proud American. If you ask ChatGPT about left-wing violence and right-wing violence, it lies. It says left-wing violence doesn't exist and lies about the right wing. Well, it depends on ChatGPT. I don't use ChatGPT. I use Venice AI. And Venice AI I have found to be wildly more accurate. I've done comparisons, and I have found ChatGPT has programming that is divisive. Let's put it that way. Billy McFly, much love from Sacramento, California. Sacktown. What's
Okay. All right. Well. Let's see here.
Welcome in here to Live now from Fox.
Okay, we already saw that. Yeah, to war-ravaged Portland. I mean, what else would you call it? You know?
And developing news.
There we go. Another video here.
Out west, President Trump saying he is ordering military troops into Portland, Oregon, as he puts a as he says, a war-ravaged city needs to be addressed. Let's get down to the newsroom where our Meredith Gorman has more on who the president is calling domestic terrorists. Meredith.
Arthur, President Trump said Saturday he will send troops to Portland, Oregon, a city he described as war-ravaged, to protect immigration and customs enforcement facilities he claimed are under siege by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. President Trump took to Truth Social earlier and wrote, quote, "At the request of Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem, I am directing Secretary of War Pete Hegseth to provide all necessary troops to protect war-ravaged Portland and any of our ICE facilities under siege from attack by Antifa and other domestic terrorists. I am also authorizing full force if necessary. Thank you for your attention to this matter."
This move comes after scenes like this in other demonstrations where protesters went to an ICE facility in Portland on September 1st, and federal agents diffused them with chemical sprays and pepper balls. The tense situation lasted for more than 12 hours, and protests have heated up in Portland. Trump had threatened to previously send troops to Portland recently before making this big announcement. Now, just a short time ago, Oregon Governor Tina Kotek addressed this decision by Trump, making it clear that she strongly opposes any troops coming to Portland, saying that military service members should only be made available for what she says are real emergencies.
In my conversations directly with President Trump and Secretary Noem, I have been abundantly clear with them that Portland and the state of Oregon believe in the rule of law, and we can manage our own local public safety needs. There is no insurrection, there is no threat to national security, and there is no need for military troops in our major city.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever. Keep lying to our faces. We know the truth. We know the truth. Yeah. Guys, I want to follow this situation pretty closely. Because I have a bad feeling on where this is going to go. I have a really bad feeling on where this is going to go, because I know how history plays out. This is always how history plays out. Almost every single time something like this happens, major conflict always comes from it. Always. Almost every single time. 9 times out of 10. 9 times out of 10. And especially with our political climate the way it is today, with how willing people are to be at each other's throats. Yeah, it's... oh, damn. And then another thing too, where we are getting involved with Venezuela. That's something to take a look at as well. I don't understand why we are, and maybe you guys can help me out with that, as to why we are getting ready for airstrikes on Venezuela. But I don't understand why we're doing that, right? Because we're not supposed to be, we're not supposed to be getting involved with any new wars, right? But yet we decided to bomb Iran, and then we are ending the Ukraine-Russia war. We're not, and now we're getting into another conflict with Venezuela. Look, on one hand, I understand, because I do see that them sending their criminals, their violent criminals, illegally into our country that have had a very high potential to harm and even kill our own citizens. And whether they did or not, the very fact that they had sent their criminals here, just allowing that possibility to happen, I do believe that is an act of war. It's just me, though. But I do believe that is an act of war. And how the government responds. Now, that was allowed, right? That was allowed to happen, and that's something that we should also talk about as well, right? Because we're not seeing treason charges. We're not seeing that, right? Because this was brought about by officials that we had elected, right, into their positions, right? This was allowed to happen. So the fact that no one is being held accountable is absolutely crazy to me. And this right here, all of this all of this, I definitely believe this is a distraction. I definitely believe this is a distraction. The Charlie shooting, this here, the ICE thing, getting involved with Venezuela, which Venezuela actually has the largest oil reserve on the planet. And so I think it's a little sus as to why we're getting involved with Venezuela. But, that's for a different time. That's for a different time. But all of this is a distraction, and I want you to keep this in the forefront of your minds. This is a distraction to take us away from the Epstein files. We have to absolutely keep on with the Epstein files. If you didn't know, the same day Charlie was shot, both the House and the Senate had voted to seal the Epstein files. Okay. So, and I think it's really weird how that happened that day, right? September 10th happened exactly a week after the survivors were announcing that they were going to come out with their stories, right? That happened on September 3rd. So it was exactly a week after. And so we cannot let ourselves forget about the Epstein files. We have to keep talking about the Epstein files. We have to keep this at the front, right, of our conversations. Epstein files. Okay? So, guys, please do that. And if you happen to have any questions, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to do the best I can to answer them. So, sorry again, guys, for the last minute notification of going live, but I wanted to go live instead of doing a video today, because I wanted to talk with you guys real time instead of just doing a video, because this is some major news, and I do believe this is the beginning of the spiral effect, right? It's the beginning of us circling the drain. I've heard Bo over on Legion of Men say that we are essentially speed running the downfall of Rome. The downfall of Rome. And I would definitely have to agree with that. We absolutely are. And it's really sad to see that. Right? Because I love this country, right? I loved, I love this country. I love, what it stands for, or at least, what it did stand for, because we haven't been in a free nation for a long time now, right? I mean, the very fact that you have to go and ask your local government to own a gun is crazy to me. That you have to go and beg them for a license to carry that on your person is absolutely tyrannical. That has no place in a free society. They talk about democracy. They talk about freedom all the time, yet they tell you that if you carry without a license, you go to jail. That if you put one wrong part on your gun, you go to jail. You go to prison for 10 years. 10 years. Right. Right. Because barrels makes you a criminal. Right. Right. Fuck off. The ATF should be disbanded. Absolutely. Should be done away with. NFA should be gone. There should be treason charges. Absolutely. I'm so tired I'm so tired of these people constantly infringing on our rights. I'm so tired of it. And you guys should be too. You absolutely should be as well. You should be furious that they are trampling on our rights. It's ridiculous, man. They tell us that we need a license to be able to protect ourselves, where the Second Amendment very clearly says shall not be infringed. You cannot get more clear than that. Right? And that's really that's really going to put people in a bad mental state, right? People are really going to get very stressed out because as tensions rise, as more violence comes about, obviously people are going to want to go get ammunition. They're going to want guns. They're going to want means to defend themselves, right? But how can they do that if you're putting 30-day holds on people on background checks, right? If you are doing a stop where, because I know here in Virginia, if you buy a handgun, you have to wait 30 days before you buy another handgun. That is absolutely insane to me. It's insane to me. That should not that should not happen. That should not exist. Yet it does. Now we do have, organizations and movements like GOA and I wouldn't say the NRA because the NRA sucks ass. But the GOA is actually pretty good. And so we do have organizations that are suing and winning those lawsuits. And is really doing a good job in changing those laws to bring those unalienable rights, which is something that shouldn't have been infringed on to begin with. But here in the past 10 years, I mean, well before that, but past 10 years, we really began to see our government infringing on our First, Second, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights, right? And so, as this continues to get worse, right, with all of these weirdos, right, who are continuing to go out into the streets and burn the American flag and set monuments on fire and threaten people, right? You're gonna want to make sure that you're prepared, right? And so that's why I tell people, especially when I'm doing my educational videos, I may not know a whole lot, right, but I know a little bit, and so that's why I always tell you guys, train, okay? Train, get equipment, get medical equipment, get food, water, have a backup plan. And I would even go so far as to tell you guys, go and set up some kind of bug out location, right? Go and literally, I mean, you could just dig a hole in the side of a mountain, just do something. You know what I'm saying? You want to have some kind of backup plan where, you could take maybe just yourself or maybe you and your family somewhere safe. Because we are, I know I've said this quite a few times already, but we are, we are right on the edge of major conflict. We are, right? And I'm trying to do everything that I can to keep us from doing that. But unfortunately, there are too many people that are set in their ways, right? And they've turned off their ears. They've blinded themselves, right, to the viewpoints of people that they disagree with. And, well, that's not good for anyone, right? So But I mean, and that's just going to lead to more conflict. And so, uh, what's 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 going to be the future? You know, well, I mean, the future is pretty grim, right? And what I see happening is our government stepping in and taking full advantage of this major conflict that's going to come about, and they're going to take control, right? This has been in the plans for a long time now, and people just don't see. It really frustrates me that people don't really see what is going on. They don't see behind, right? The silver. They don't see the silver lining in things. They only see things at face value, right? And they just don't look past the veil. And I really wish people did. And maybe we could blame. I mean, we could definitely blame the education process for teaching us to memorize instead of teaching us to critically think, right? And that's leading us to accept whatever, right, we're given, because we voted them into office, and so of course we want to believe what they're telling us. But then again, how many times have we been proven wrong, right? When Trump was first elected, we thought change was going to happen, that he was going to drain the swamp, right? Well, come to find out that he was the spokesperson of a multi-level marketing company called ACN. If you guys don't know what a multi-level marketing company is, these are companies that run pyramid schemes, right, and scam people. And so he knew the CEO, right? He knew a lot of these people, and still was a spokesperson for these guys. And then he was also advocating for violating people's Fifth Amendment rights, right, by calling for red flag laws, and then telling people, right, to take people's guns before trial, right? That's violating people's Fifth Amendment rights, right? We all have a right to due process. Here's the thing, and there's a lot of people that are going to disagree with me here, right? We all have a right to due process, right? And if you do some bad shit, then obviously whatever bad shit you do, right, that's gonna be considered evidence, right? But you still have due process, right? And you are supposed to be you're supposed to be proven guilty, right, in the court of law, not proven innocent. Right. What I mean by that is that you are innocent until proven guilty. You're not guilty until proven innocent. That's what I mean to say. Right. And well, we thought things were going to change, and they didn't. Right. And so of course we got Sleepy Joe. That was 10 times worse than Trump, I would say. But as soon as Trump came back, we were expecting something different to happen. I remember when I was removed from service for refusing the COVID vaccine, I was actually reaching out to J.D. Vance, right, because I wanted something done, because nothing was being done, right? I was calling my local representatives, and I didn't hear anything back at all. And so I went up the chain of command, and that didn't pan out at all, right? That's when I began to realize that, right, business as usual. And then when Trump got into office, we were expecting things to change, right? We were expecting mass deportations. We didn't get it. We were expecting smaller government. We got Doge instead, right? And then the very funds that they took from USAID, they then put into the Pentagon. How does that help us, right? And then they were talking about stimulus checks, to give back to the people. I haven't seen any of that, right? What about the taxes that you stole from me and then to go send over to Ukraine, to send over to Israel, right? To do things that I don't approve of, that I never consented to, that most Americans never consented to begin with, right? So we have that. We were told that that Ukraine and Russia, or the war in Ukraine, was going to end in 24 hours. We were told that didn't happen. It's over 6 months later, right? And the war is still waging on. So that didn't change. And then we have a president now that's pledging to Israel instead of us, right? Where he literally, just after he bombed, or he ordered Iran to be bombed, he tweets out, "Promises made, promises kept," and went with the Israel flag. Why are we getting involved in other nations' affairs? We should be worrying about our own people who are homeless, living under bridges, can't even afford to eat. I'm one of them, right? Disabled veteran, can't find a job. I'm one of them. I was watching on Bo's channel, Legion of Men. I was watching one of his videos, and it was hard to watch because I was literally watching a woman break down because she had visited. She said 20 pantries, and all of them were closed. Right, and she was starving. We have people that are starving. I also remember another video that he did where there was a teacher, single mother. And say what you want about single mothers. Single mothers should exist, right? They should be married, right? But say what you want. That's not the point right now. The point is that there was a single mother of 3 who was literally feeding their children cereal, like poison in a box, right? Because she couldn't afford to feed them anything else, right? We have people that are homeless, starving, and we still give millions to other countries, and we still stick our noses where it doesn't belong. Our founding fathers had warned us about neutrality, that we should stay neutral, right? Well, guess what? This is exactly what happens when we decide we want to stick our noses in everywhere else, right? Our own people suffer, right? ICE was even caught, ICE was even caught, the VA was caught sending Veterans Affairs, right? The very department that is designed to help disabled veterans, such as myself. They were caught sending funds over to ICE to house illegals. I want you guys to know that. Right? We have people who had given time, some broken bodies, again, myself. I have a lot of disabilities. And some even gave their lives for what? For what? We come back and we're forgotten about. And it's not just us. Right? It's not just us. It's average Americans. Right? And this is actually taking me into the this next discussion, which is the social class war that we find ourselves in, right? It's the haves versus the have-nots, and it's always been that way for thousands of years, right? But we find ourselves in yet another cycle where the haves, right? The haves are oppressing the have-nots, right? And we see this everywhere. Everywhere we see this. I mean, COVID was one of the biggest examples, and I talk about COVID all the time, but look, it's one of the most perfect examples that we could use for this. you know. Walmart was allowed to stay operational, right? And they could of course break their own or break the guidelines, break the rules, right? For COVID or for the COVID policies and whatnot. But I was watching restaurant owners, bar owners, small business. I was watching these guys get arrested. I mean, they were being super rough with these people when they were arresting them, right? Rules for thee, but not for me, right? And this is what the real problem is here in America, right? And it leads to this. Oops, let me go back. And it leads to this. It leads to this. This is what it leads to, right? Because they have the funds. They have the resources, right, to put out all this information, to do all this stuff. This is the thing that really scares me the most, is that, me being a small YouTuber, right, and even bigger YouTubers, sure, but we're using a platform that is controlled by those few at the top. Because YouTube just came out with an apology, right, with the whole Nick Fuentes and Alex Jones situation. They were one of the they were one of the many ones that was suppressing people's speech, right? Facebook, Instagram, Google, right? All of them were doing the same shit, that were doing what was demanded of them by the government. So it brings us back full circle, right, to where those at the top are the ones that are controlling the narrative. Those at the top are the ones that are wanting us pitted against one another, right? And they're doing a phenomenal job about that, right? Critical thinking is very hard to come by here in America. Or I should say in Western culture. Critical thinking is so hard to find. That's a tragedy. It's an absolute tragedy. And we can see this because of how people converse, right, in college campuses. That's true. That's very true. I wish it wasn't that way, but it is. And we can do something about it. And here is the bright side of things. We can do something about it, which is what Charlie was doing, right, until he got shot. And, say what you want to say. I don't believe Tyler did it at all. And we'll just have to wait and see, which is exactly why I'll be going live again the 29th. Don't know exactly what time yet, but I'll be going live. We'll be going over the Tyler Robinson trial, of course, but because that's when it was scheduled for. But I don't believe that he did it at all. I looked at the footage myself, very, very clear. It was very clear that he wasn't the one that did it. So, but yeah. So, we have conversations. We talk about things, right? We talk about things that may not be comfortable to talk about. But that's the only way forward, is that we talk about things that are hard to hear sometimes, right? It's the only way to progress. Come together, and we try to find common ground. We try to find something good in someone that we disagree with, instead of looking at them as subhuman. Whether you vote red or blue, whether you're conservative or liberal, right? Uh, Try to find something good in someone. Now, it's pretty questionable if you think that abortions can happen, after birth, and you think that that's acceptable. Then, there are some problems with you there. But we have to find something good in someone, right? Try to find the humanity in someone that we disagree with, and that's the whole point of this channel, right? I know I do other content like building dioramas, music, gaming content. I know I do a lot of other stuff as well, but the main point of this channel here and the main mission that we have here on the channel is for us all to come together, right? To compromise, where we should compromise, and to figure it all out together. To bring humanity back into the culture and to change this culture into something that is better than what we, or it's better than what we have now, right? And then we continue to build on that, right? We're just building a brighter future, is what I mean to say. So, yeah, well, pretty much on time here. I wanted to do an hour stream, and so we are just over that. But I got to talking about a lot of. I had a squirrel moment, so. But I'm gonna go ahead and hop off of here. So, if you guys need me for anything, please let me know. Also, if you guys happen to stumble upon this stream, right, leave a comment. Okay, leave a comment. Please do. I want to hear what you guys have to say. I'd love to hear from you. And if you guys happen to have any more information, because some of you have been sending some things to me, so I greatly appreciate that, guys. I have taken a look into some of it, and I'll continue to take a look into it. I keep you guys in mind every single day. I always look at the comments. I always respond to the comments. That is my favorite part of the day is hearing from you guys. So I appreciate hearing from all of you. Please remember to take care of yourselves, right? Especially with, all of this stuff, especially with all of this stuff going on. Please take care of yourselves. Be careful, okay? Be situationally aware. Make sure you are training, okay? Buy guns, buy ammo, food, water, stuff like that, medical equipment. And if you happen to have anything that you would like me to talk about specifically in a video, right, or live, please let me know. I'll be more than happy to do the best that I can for you. So, that being said, thanks so much for watching, guys. I truly appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for sparing even a few seconds. Thank you for sparing just that, and just coming and hanging out with me for a little bit. I appreciate that. I love you all. I wish you a lovely night. I'll talk to you guys soon.